or good morning, depending on where you are. I welcome our audience from coast to coast across Canada and in the Philippines. My name is Marvin Rotran. I'm the Director General of United Against Hate Canada, and tonight I will be your host along with my colleague Al Abdon, the Chair of the Filipino Heritage Month Society, who will speak in just a moment or two. First of all, I'm proud to wear my formal barong in honor of Filipino Heritage Month. I got this barong at the SM Mall in Makati, Manila, Philippines, and I'm proud to wear it. Tonight, we pass the torch from Jewish Heritage Month, which was the month of May, to June, Filipino Heritage Month. Today, we celebrate the contributions that Jews and Filipinos have made to Canada's well-being and success. There are 400,000 Jews in Canada, and we have a long history in this country, and we've contributed to this country. There are nearly 1 million Filipinos in Canada now. Their roots perhaps don't go back as far as the Jewish population, but they too have contributed to making Canada a better and more successful place. We're going to learn tonight about how the Philippines gave shelter to Jewish refugees fleeing the Holocaust. We're going to learn about President Quezon and his humanitarianism. We're going to learn about how the Philippines supported the rebirth of the State of Israel at the United Nations. We'll hear about how strong and how enduring the relationship between the Philippines and the State of Israel is, and about the historic relationship between Filipinos and Jews. First of all, I'd like to note that many dignitaries, particularly elected officials, will be with us during the evening. Some of them are here already. Some will be with us shortly. Other than those who are speaking, I want to note, confirmed are Mayor Tim Thomas of the city of Point Claire, Mayor Alex Batucci from the city of Dollar Days Ormo, Anna Gainey, Member of Parliament for Notre Dame de Grace Westmount. We may or may not have Ben Carr from Winnipeg South Center. Ben was supposed to speak this evening. His travel plans changed. There was supposed to be a video. We're having some difficulty. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I note the presence of Joseph Lala and Ellie Israel, commissioners of the English Montreal School Board. I'll announce other elected officials a bit later this evening. I also want to welcome the well-known leaders of the Filipino community, people of stature who will speak tonight, including Reverend Orlin Rocacho, who is the longtime organizer of the Filipino delegation of the Israel Day rally, Ray Balenci, the new regional commander of the Knights of Rizal for Eastern Canada, Minda Mazzoni, the president of the Federation of Filipino Canadian Associations, and Ramon Vicente, president of Filipino Family Services, and others. We'll also hear by video from Ambassador Maria Andreleta Austria, the Philippines ambassador to Canada. Now, this call has already elicited a lot of information that we didn't know about before. I didn't know, and you may not know, that Knights of Pythias, a Jewish service organization, opened a lodge in Manila in 2021. It's called the McKinley Lodge #1, obviously named after President McKinley, who was the president when the Americans took over the Philippines and began the transformation from Spanish rule to American rule, while the Filipino people declared their independence and began a struggle that ultimately would lead to independence. We've also learned that former Ambassador Petronila Garcia, whose video we will show you tonight, speaks fluent Hebrew, and her children and grandchildren hold U.S., Philippines, and Israel passports. We'll be hearing some poignant stories from her. We learned, without knowing this before, that the city of Baguio is twinned with Nazareth in Israel. And in fact, that there's an agreement with the university, Benguet State University, with Israel to promote agroforestry research. Quezon City in the Philippines, we learned, is twinned with Rishon LeZion in Israel. A twin city agreement was formally signed May 24th, 2023, in person, while one online and Zoom during the pandemic was agreed to 6th of April, 2022. We note that 30,000 Filipinos reside in Israel. We also note that there was a screening of the documentary Rescue in the Philippines at the Asper Jewish Community Center in Winnipeg in November 2015, starting a tradition of cultural exchanges between the Jewish and Filipino communities in the city of Winnipeg. We also learned that the Knights of Rizal nationally have been offering support to Jewish institutional buildings given the violence against synagogues and schools in different cities in Canada. I trust you will find tonight's event informative and entertaining. It'll be about 90 minutes long. It'll be live streamed on Canadian Pinoy Radio Montreal. I thank Mr. Norberto Mandin for his work to support this event, and it will be available afterwards on YouTube. I now ask for the national anthems to be performed by Panday Tinig, one of my favorite choral ensembles anywhere in Canada. They will play the national anthems of Israel and the Philippines for us. Foremost choral ensembles. They have played at Carnegie Hall in New York. They played across Canada. They're just absolutely wonderful. They have been a partner to the City of Montreal during the 375th anniversary. I want to note the good work of my neighbor and the conductor, Paul Imperial, and the musical director, Editha Fideliso, as well as all the members of the choral ensemble. I'll now call upon my co-host and my colleague, Al Abdon, the chair of the Filipino Heritage Month Society. I want to commend him for the event held yesterday at the FAMAS Center to launch Filipino Heritage Month. Full house, wonderful entertainment, a great deal of feeling. Nobody does it better than your organization to promote Filipino Heritage Month. And I want to thank all the people who came up to me to offer their support for the Jewish community as well. Al, the floor is yours.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. My name is Al Abdon. I'm the chairman of the Filipino Heritage Society of Montreal. We are pleased to greet you all this event, for this special event to celebrate both Filipinos and Jewish Heritage Month, and to note the strong historic relationship between Filipinos and Jews, which dates back to the darkest days of World War II. I would like to give a special welcome the members of the House of Commons, the senators, the Philippine and Israel Embassy in Ottawa, spiritual and community leaders who made a point in joining us this evening. On behalf of our organization, We salute our partners, United Against Hate Canada, who work so diligently with choreographing this evening. It is always a pleasure to work with Marvin Rotran. And we trust this evening can become an anticipated annual celebration. Our organization goes back 6 years. Our work was inspired by the City of Montreal Declaration of June as the Filipino Heritage Month. As a result, a collective declaration by our neighboring provinces, a motion was introduced in Parliament to declare every June Filipino Heritage Month throughout the year, from coast to coast to coast. We have reached out to many organizations to coordinate this joint event that permit the public to learn more about the history of the Philippines and the rich culture, including music, dance, and cuisine. June is indeed an important month for us. We not only launch our Heritage Month, but also celebrate Independence Day, as well as the birth anniversary of Dr. Jose Rizal, our national hero. Kamakailan lang ay nakipagbahagi ang aming mga grupo, ang mga miyembro sa rally ng Israel Independence Day sa siyudad ng Montreal. Nais naming malaman ng publiko na ang relasyon ng bansang Israel at Pilipinas ay malakas at matibay. Once again, thank you for participating with us this evening, and we hope you enjoy the presentation.
Thank you very much, Al. We will now go to Member of Parliament Anthony Housefather, who represents Mount Royal in Quebec. Anthony is a member of Parliament with a riding that has a very large Jewish population and a very large Filipino population. He's present for both communities. I heard his name called at the recent Israel Day rally when Israel's Consul General in Montreal, Paul Hirschon, called him the staunchest defender of the Jewish community in Canada and noted his work at this very, very difficult time. I also note that Anthony has been very present in events leading up to Filipino Heritage Month, and he was the seconder of the Filipino Heritage Month motion that passed Parliament that launched the Heritage Month nationally. Anthony, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marvin, and thank you, Al, and thank you for putting together an event that brings together two communities that I love so much. I had the great honor of being a seconder of both Jewish Heritage Month in Parliament and Filipino Heritage Month in Parliament when we made them law, which is actually kind of funny given how long the history of these communities are, that even in my 9 years in the House of Commons, both of these months, May for Jewish Heritage Month and June for Filipino Heritage Month, are so new in terms of their recognition by Canada. And each of those months gives us a chance to celebrate a community that is vital to the Canadian mosaic. The Jewish community that first arrived here in 1760 and numbers 400 and some thousand strong, and the Filipino community that arrived here a couple of centuries later, but is now 1 million people in Canada, and the fastest growing ethnic community in the country, pretty much. One of the things that I think makes Mount Royal such a great riding, but is also similar in other urban ridings across the country, is the intersection of the Jewish and Filipino communities. These two communities have chosen to live close to each other. They have learned about each other's cultures, and they've grown by embracing their neighbors, their friends, new family members who are in the other community. And one of the things that makes my job so special in the month of May is being able to partake in a multiplicity of Jewish Heritage Month celebrations, culminating, of course, in Israel Independence Day. And the same is true with June with respect to Filipino Heritage Month, when we have all kinds of wonderful Heritage Month events, including what Al was talking about, the birthday of Jose Rizal, the FAMAS annual dinner, and Filipino Independence Day, and our celebration in terms of the FFCAQ parade, the events in Mackenzie King Park, etc. So I hope that going forward, this event does become an annual event, and that each community will continue to celebrate the other. It was wonderful having seen members of the Filipino community at Jewish Heritage Month's events, and I hope to see the same, more and more members of the Jewish community celebrating Filipino Heritage Month events in June. So I wish everybody a fantastic month. Mabuhay to the community. And thank you for bringing everybody together, Marvin and Al.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I can guarantee you that dialogue will continue. We've had a wonderful time on our end working with Al Abdon and his group and other members of the Filipino community. We have a lot to learn from each other. We have a shared history, and we want people in our community to know more about what Filipinos have done for Jews, and we want Filipinos to know the history of their relationship with the Jewish community as well. So hopefully your wish that this become an annual event will go forward. I'm now going to go to Melissa Landsman, the Member of Parliament for Thornhill. Melissa was supposed to be here in person. We've done a lot of juggling. Unfortunately, we could not accommodate a change in her schedule. I want to note the good work of Joseph Katchen in her office, who ensured that we got a video from Melissa that we could play at the time slot that we had reserved for her. Thank you, Melissa, for the work that you do. And I will ask that the video from Melissa Landsman be played.
Hi, I'm Melissa Landsman, Member of Parliament for Thornhill and Deputy Leader of Canada's Conservatives. I first want to thank you all for being with us tonight, and I'm sorry that I can't join you live, but know that I'm with you in spirit this evening and with you in principle as we fight for a more just world free of hatred and discrimination. May and June are Jewish and Filipino Heritage Months, respectively. And at this time of the year, our minds are naturally drawn to the links between Jews and Filipinos living all around the world and living right here in Canada. For the Filipino community, this month gives us the opportunity to celebrate the Filipino culture, traditions, languages, as well as the many contributions your community has made to Canada. Contributions in healthcare, in business, in politics, and in sports. The Filipino community is one of the largest, fastest growing diasporas in Canada, and we couldn't be happier in Thornhill to have a community sharing in its heritage and culture with all of us in a true mark of what pluralism is. Deeply proud Canadians who teach the next generation where they came from. But it's the bond between our two communities that really shines as an example of what Canada could and should be. It's a deep bond. The Philippines was one of the few nations back in the day to admit Jews fleeing the Holocaust. The Philippines also voted at the UN for the rebirth of Israel, the only Asian country to do so, and it remains a steadfast partner in trade, education, and in many other things. And of course, a long-standing partner for the community everywhere. Here in my home of Thornhill, we have a vibrant Jewish and Filipino community who contribute greatly to making Thornhill, in my biased opinion, the best place in Canada to work, live, and raise a family. In some ways, the strong sense of connection between Jews and Filipinos defies explanation. The largest Jewish community in Manila has at most 70 families. So what does the Philippines have to gain by supporting Israel? What do Filipinos have to gain by being allies of Jews? They have very little to gain. And to be completely frank with you, it's the fact which provides the most revealing evidence about the character of the Philippines and Filipinos around the world. Despite little to gain, the Philippines is always there, always. And in a time when many nations forget their guiding principles, the Philippines remembered theirs. At a time when it was easy to turn Jews away, the Filipinos welcomed Jews with open arms. And at a time when it was easy to stand against Israel, the Philippines stood with Israel. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. It is this deep and profound sense of right versus wrong, good versus evil, and justice versus injustice that has guided the relationship and will continue to guide us for years to come. And it is this idea of righteousness and moral clarity that should be a model for countries around the world. But unfortunately, it is sorely lacking in our contemporary world. I am so thankful that United Against Hate Canada, the government of the Philippines and the government of Israel, and many other colleagues in federal and provincial politics are doing the important work to help us continue to forge deeper friendships between Jews and Filipinos while holding up this relationship as a model for everyone to see. On my end, I will continue to be your voice, the loudest voice standing up for our ally Israel in Parliament, on social media, in the streets, and anywhere else the words Am Yisrael Chai need to be spoken. We're again entering another age where it's easier to stand against Israel and it's easier to stand against Jews. It was wrong then and it's wrong now. And I'm looking forward to a day when principled and devoted can again be used to describe Canadian diplomacy. I know that day will come, and I will be there when it does. Thank you again for all the work that you're doing, and I'm looking forward to joining you in person really soon.
Thank you, Ms. Landsman, for your words. Much appreciated today. We're now going to go immediately to Luzviminda Mazzoni, who is the president of the Federation of Filipino Canadian Associations, an organization that does good work. During the time I was a city councilor, I worked with them in the agglomeration of Montreal on food security issues. They were very, very present. They're there to support Filipino organizations wherever they may be. And they're always ready to stand with the Jewish community. When there's issues of anti-Semitism, they're always willing to stand up against hate aimed at any community. Pleasure to work with you. Ms. Mazzoni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marvin. Good evening, everyone. My name is Luzviminda Mazzoni, and I'm the president of the Federation of Filipino Canadian Associations of Quebec, one of Eastern Canada's largest Filipino organizations. We are an umbrella organization that includes sports, cultural, senior, and social associations who collectively represent numerous members. We're honored to participate in tonight's celebration of Filipino and Jewish Heritage Months and the historic friendship of Filipinos and Jews. We thank United Against Hate Canada and the Filipino Heritage Month Society for organizing this important event. June is a meaningful month that will be celebrated by the 1 million strong Filipino community in Canada. It's Filipino Heritage Month, and we will joyfully mark our heritage as well as our Canadian dimension. This month, we'll see events coast to coast, which will highlight our culture, our cuisine, our history, and the contributions that Filipinos are making in Canada's success. Of course, everybody is welcome to join in. We will celebrate June 12 as the Independence Day of the Philippines. We will celebrate June 19 also as the birth anniversary of Dr. Jose Rizal, our national hero. These 2 days complement each other. Dr. Rizal's work led to Filipinos rising to cast off the shackles of colonialism and to promote racial equality and brotherhood between all nations. Those principles are the bedrock of our homeland. We appreciate the attendance of our Jewish friends this evening, and we salute May as Jewish Heritage Month in Canada. Thank you for having included us in your Israel Day rallies that took place May 14 to mark Israel's 76th anniversary of rebirth. Filipinos attended those rallies to let all know about the warm ties that exist between the Republic of the Philippines and the State of Israel. We cherish those warm relations. Under President Quezon, the then Commonwealth of the Philippines was one of the few nations to open its doors to desperate Jewish refugees fleeing the Holocaust. Under President Rojas, the Philippines voted at the United Nations to recognize Israel as a state and member of the world community. Since that time, relations between the two countries has mushroomed to mutual benefit, and the friendship has grown even stronger over the past decade. At this time of surging global anti-Semitism, pushed by those who call for Israel's destruction, it's more important than ever that Filipinos stand with their Jewish friends and neighbors. Let us all combat this form of hate, this vile form of hate. We call on the government of Canada to strengthen our laws to combat online hate. We call on police departments to apply our hate laws. It's unacceptable to learn of shots fired at Jewish schools and arson attempts made against Jewish community buildings. Our federation endorses United Against Hate Canada's efforts to build cross-cultural dialogue. By highlighting the contributions of the many diverse communities to Canada's well-being, we can build alliances that push back on hate and intolerance. We urge the government of Canada to create a dedicated funding to promote the heritage months of racial and religious minorities. We believe that will create a more harmonious Canada. Mabuhay! Please join us for our upcoming events to celebrate Filipino Heritage Month. There will be flag raising and festivals in many cities across Canada. Thank you, everyone. Happy Jewish Heritage Month. Happy Filipino Heritage Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Soni. We will now hear from Nathaniel Imperial, who is the ambassador of the Philippines to Italy. Nathaniel, Neil, as we know him better, was the former Philippines ambassador to Israel. Actually, he was ambassador 2 ambassadors ago to Israel. And he was also recently the Deputy Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines. He was my host in Manila in February 2023 when I urged the government of the Philippines to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. There is still discussion going on about that. Neil's asleep right now. It's the middle of the night in Rome, but he did send a video where we can learn about the rescue in the Philippines, why the Philippines admitted Jewish refugees. This video was filmed in the Quezon room in the Philippines embassy in Israel. Let's have the video.
At the moment in what we call the Quezon room, which we named in honor of Philippine President Manuel Quezon, who played a pivotal role in providing sanctuary to Jewish refugees during the Holocaust in the late 1930s. When Nazism came to power in Germany and Kristallnacht happened in 1938, there was a strong reaction among Filipinos. A lot of politicians, church leaders, and students protested the racism and discrimination being done against Jews in Nazi Germany. Our president at that time, Manuel Luis Quezon, together with some influential members of the Jewish community in Manila, and Paul McNutt, the head of the American government in the Philippines, decided to persuade the U.S. State Department to allow as many Jews as possible to go to the Philippines. And so they agreed finally to a figure of around 10,000 visas to be issued. In the end, only 1,300 Jews were able to reach Manila because the Japanese invaded the Philippines. Well, this humanitarian gesture of the Philippines happened at a time when anti-Semitism ran rampant in most of the Western world. And when most countries closed their doors on the fleeing Jewish refugees, a far-flung country in the Far East, which was a developing country at that time, opened its heart and its doors to a group of people who were in dire need of assistance. In the contemporary setting, we see anti-Semitism rearing its ugly head once more. And it is important for countries around the world and peoples around the world to unite in opposing this rising scourge and to once more open their hearts and open their doors. I think it's important for the youth to remember that we all belong to one humanity. There is no place for discrimination on the basis of skin color, religion, and other differences. It is true that it may be difficult for some of us to defend what is right when there is a lot of pressure to conform, and especially in the social media where what is popular rules the day. However, we must always remember to do what is right and to remember the examples given to us by those who were brave enough to fight for what is right.
I've always appreciated Ambassador Imperial. I consider him a great man with a great heart and a great humanitarian in his own right, inspired by the leaders of his country, including President Quezon and his example. We'll now go to another video that tells us a lot more about the relationship between the Philippines and Israel, because it's a lot broader than I think most people. Let's go to that video right now.
Ever wondered why the Philippines holds such an important role for Israel? I bet you did, because it's not something that immediately springs to mind when you think about international relationships. Yet, the bond between these two nations, separated by thousands of miles, is not only fascinating but also deeply rooted in history. The Philippines and Israel, two countries with distinct cultures and histories, have been sharing a unique relationship that's been forged over decades. It's a connection that stretches back to the tumultuous times of World War II, when the Philippines, under President Manuel Quezon, opened its arms to Jewish refugees fleeing the horrors of the Holocaust. This act of humanity and courage cemented a bond between the two nations that has only grown stronger over the years. Today, this relationship has blossomed into a multifaceted partnership that encompasses numerous areas, from trade and tourism to defense and diplomacy. It's a bond that's not just about politics or economics, but about people, about shared values, and about mutual respect and admiration. And yet, this intriguing relationship is often overlooked, even by those who are well-versed in international relations. So why does Israel value its relationship with the Philippines so much? What makes this bond so special, so unique, and how did it evolve over time? The answers to these questions are far from simple, and they require us to delve into the annals of history, to explore the cultural nuances, and to understand the geopolitical realities that shape this relationship. It's a journey that's as fascinating as it is enlightening, and one that offers us a unique perspective on how nations, no matter how different they might be, can come together in a spirit of friendship and cooperation. So, are you ready to embark on this journey? Are you eager to uncover the layers of this relationship and understand why the Philippines is so essential to Israel? Are you curious to delve deeper into this intriguing topic? Stay tuned. Did you know that the Philippines was the only Asian country to vote for the partition of Palestine in 1947? Yes, it's true. This pivotal event in history is often overshadowed, but its significance cannot be understated. Let's travel back to the late 40s. The world was still reeling from the aftermath of the Second World War. The United Nations was a newly formed body, tasked with maintaining international peace and security. Among the issues at hand was the question of Palestine, a land claimed by both Jews and Arabs. The UN proposed a plan to partition Palestine into two independent states, one Jewish and one Arab. In this critical moment, the Philippines stepped forward. It was the only Asian nation to cast a vote in favor of the partition plan. This was a bold move, considering the geopolitical climate at the time. Most Asian countries were either abstaining or voting against the proposal, largely due to their relationships with Arab nations. But the Philippines, under the leadership of then-President Manuel Roxas, chose to support the establishment of a Jewish state. Roxas's decision wasn't just political, it was deeply personal. Roxas was moved by the plight of the Jewish people, particularly the survivors of the Holocaust. He saw in them a spirit of resilience and determination that resonated with his own nation's struggle for independence. The Philippines' vote was more than just a tick on a ballot. It was a statement of support, a beacon of hope, a lifeline extended to a people in desperate need of a homeland. And it had a profound impact. The UN's partition plan was approved by a slim majority, paving the way for the establishment of the State of Israel. Imagine, without this small island nation, Israel might not exist as we know it today. The Philippines' vote in 1947 was a testament to its commitment to justice and human dignity, values that continue to define its relationship with Israel. It's a story of solidarity, of standing up for what's right, even when it's not the popular choice. And it's a story that deserves to be remembered. Ever wondered how this historical connection has evolved into present-day relations? Let's dive into the current political, economic, and cultural ties between the Philippines and Israel. On the political front, these two nations have been nurturing a steady and ever-evolving relationship. The Philippines, being one of the few Asian countries to establish full diplomatic relations with Israel, has a unique position. This bond has led to a multitude of official visits and cooperative agreements, strengthening their political ties. Economically, the relationship between the Philippines and Israel is a testament to mutual benefits. Israel is one of the Philippines' key trading partners, with a significant amount of goods and services flowing between the two countries. Israel's technological prowess, particularly in agriculture and water management, is highly sought after in the Philippines. In return, the Philippines offers a large market for Israeli products and technology. Then there's the cultural exchange. Thousands of Filipino workers reside in Israel, contributing to its economy and society, while also sending remittances back home. These workers form a human bridge between the two cultures, fostering understanding and mutual respect. Not to forget, tourism plays a significant role in this relationship. Every year, thousands of Filipinos visit Israel for religious pilgrimage, and likewise Israelis visit the Philippines for its pristine beaches and vibrant culture. Moreover, there's the aspect of shared values. Both nations value democracy, freedom, and human rights. These shared ideals form the bedrock of their relationship and play a significant part in their continued alliance. And it's not just at the national level. At the individual level, many Israelis and Filipinos have personal ties, friendships, and intermarriages that bind the two cultures together in the most human of ways. It's truly fascinating to see how ties forged decades ago continue to have such a profound impact today, isn't it? Before we move on, a quick reminder. If you're enjoying delving into these intriguing global connections, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more captivating content exploring the fascinating world we live in. Don't miss out on our upcoming videos. Subscribe now. Now let's explore what the future holds for this unique relationship. As we look towards the horizon, the bond between the Philippines and Israel is set to grow even stronger. The potential areas of collaboration are vast and varied, offering a promising outlook for both nations. First, let's consider the field of technology. Israel, known as the startup nation, has been a leading light in the tech industry for many years. Given the Philippines' rapidly growing digital economy, there's a clear opportunity for both nations to collaborate and innovate together. Imagine the possibilities, from cutting-edge cybersecurity solutions to pioneering health tech innovations. The potential for shared development is enormous. Now let's turn our attention to tourism. As travel restrictions ease and the world begins to open up again, there's a growing interest among Israelis to discover the rich culture and stunning landscapes of the Philippines. In return, Israelis' warm hospitality and the historical significance of their nation could attract more Filipino tourists. This mutual exchange of tourists could not only boost economies, but also foster a deeper understanding and respect between the peoples of these two nations. And let's not forget about education. With Israel's reputation for high-quality education, particularly in science and technology, and the Philippines' burgeoning youth population, there could be a significant opportunity for educational exchanges and joint programs. This could pave the way for a new generation of leaders, innovators, and changemakers who carry forward the strong ties between these two nations. Lastly, there is the potential for increased political collaboration. As the geopolitical landscape shifts, these two nations, bound by a shared history and mutual respect, could play a vital role in shaping regional and global policies. Their joint voices could echo louder in international forums, influencing decisions that impact not just their countries, but the world. The future indeed looks promising for these two nations, don't you think? Their shared past has built a solid foundation, and now the possibilities for the future seem limitless. As we continue to watch their journey unfold, one thing's for sure. The bond between the Philippines and Israel is not just about surviving, but thriving in a changing world. So, have we piqued your curiosity about the importance of the Philippines to Israel? We've delved deep into this fascinating topic, and it's clear that the ties between these two nations are significant and multifaceted. We started our journey by exploring the historical connection. Remember, the Philippines was the only Asian country to vote for the partition of Palestine in 1947, opening the door for the establishment of Israel. This courageous stand has set the tone for the relationship between these two nations. Then we moved on to discuss present-day relations. The bonds formed in the past have only strengthened over time. Today, Israel is one of the Philippines' staunchest allies, with cooperation spanning across various sectors from agriculture to defense and even healthcare. Halfway through, we paused for a brief reminder to subscribe. We hope you clicked that button to continue receiving enlightening content like this. After all, knowledge is power, and we're all about empowering you with information. Next, we ventured into the future, looking at the potential for further growth and cooperation. With their shared values and mutual respect, the future for Israel and the Philippines is looking bright indeed. Just imagine the possibilities. But our discussion doesn't have to end here. Remember, there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to understand. Our world is a vast tapestry of interconnected stories, and we've only just begun to unravel this particular thread. So, what's next on your journey of inquiry?
Video to Have You Ever Wondered Foundation. They do very, very good work, and the message is clear. There's a solid foundation in the relationship between Israel and the Philippines, and there's a limitless future. I think there's a warm relationship that is people to people. Filipinos, there are over 30,000 in Israel. Israeli tourists increasingly visit the Philippines. Trade and commerce have been increasing, and the collaboration between the two countries economically is firm as well. It's something to ponder. I'll now go to Ambassador Maria Andreleta Austria, the ambassador of the Republic of Philippines to Canada, who was supposed to be with us initially in person, but when it became apparent she couldn't, this video was provided to us, and we thank the Embassy of the Philippines for working with us to get the video. We'll show that video to you now.
Honorable Senators and Members of Parliament, Mr. Marvin Rotrand, Director General of United Against Hate in Canada, mga kababayan, ladies and gentlemen, good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. I am honored to join you today as we jointly celebrate Jewish Heritage Month and Filipino Heritage Month, a testament to Canada's embrace of multiculturalism. As we start the Filipino Heritage Month, I join this eminent group in recalling Philippine President Manuel Quezon's open door policy, which provided sanctuary for 1,200 Jewish refugees from Germany, Poland, Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Latvia, and Bulgaria. The Philippines was prepared to accept 10,000 persecuted Jews if it weren't for the invasion of the Philippines in 1941. These Jews, who came to be known as Manilaners, were warmly welcomed to the Philippines at a most critical time. The rescue of European Jews was not the first nor the last time that the Philippines offered safe haven to those fleeing persecution. The Philippines provided succor to Russians escaping the Socialist Revolution in 1918, Chinese immigrants seeking refuge from the communist rule, thousands of Iranian students studying and working in Manila from 1975 to 1992, about 400,000 Indo-Chinese refugees escaping regime changes in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam stayed in the Philippines until they were able to proceed to their final destination. The Philippines hosts Rohingya refugees and provides them free tertiary education under the Complementary Pathway Program. We continue to actively consider and discuss with partners such as the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in the United States possible means to temporarily host other persons at risk. Philippine support for Israel also continued as the Philippines voted in favor of the UN resolution which recommended the partition of Palestine and the establishment of a Jewish state in 1947. The Philippines was among only 33 countries who supported the establishment of Israel, and we were the only Asian country who voted for the resolution. We subsequently established full diplomatic relations with Israel in 1957. In explaining his open door policy, President Quezon said, "It is my hope and indeed my expectation, that the people of the Philippines will have in the future every reason to be glad that when the time of need came, their country was willing to extend a hand of welcome. Indeed, this Filipino culture of compassion and openness is something to be proud of and passed on to the next generation, whether in the Philippines or in Canada. Witnessing the ongoing cooperation between the Filipino and Jewish communities here in Canada, particularly in Montreal, is a testament that our friendship indeed goes beyond time, borders, and our governments. Today's joint celebration of our community's Heritage Months, which I also had the honor of joining last year, are only some of the concrete manifestations of the deep people-to-people ties between the two communities. The engagement between the two communities not only contributes to the economic development of the region, but also adds to the richness of the cultural tapestry of Canada, led by different Filipino and Jewish organizations, including the Filipino Heritage Society of Montreal, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, and events like the Festival Sefarad of de Montreal, to name a few. I look forward to seeing more contributions from people of Jewish heritage in the 1 million strong Filipino-Canadian community who continue to greatly strengthen and enrich Canadian society. Thank you and mabuhay.
I thank the ambassador for her message. I want to say the ambassador of the Philippines, the current one and her predecessors, are always available to the growing Filipino population in Canada. They help sustain the community putting down roots in Canada. There is no community in Canada that insists on seeing their ambassador as much as a Filipino community. The ambassador of the Philippines, and the current one is no different, spends a large time in the air flying between cities to open events, see groups, speak at organizations, and at the same time is always available for human rights work and outreach to other organizations, including Jewish organizations. Much appreciate the message. We'll now go to a man that I've grown to admire, who I met first at Queen's Park when I had a meeting with Stephen Lecce, the education minister. He introduced me to Ontario's Solicitor General, Michael Kersner. Michael and I have grown to become friends over the last number of years. When I was at B'nai B'rith as the national director, Michael was always available to us in good times and bad. When we needed the help of the Ontario government, he was there. He's been a courageous voice against anti-Semitism. He's more than the MPP for York Centre. He is the shield of minority communities across Ontario, and he's been very, very present. I welcome Michael. I thank you for making yourself available this evening, and the floor is yours, Minister Kersner.
Well, thank you, Marvin, and welcome to everyone who's here. I don't think it's so coincidental that Jewish Heritage Month and Philippine Heritage Month follow one to another, because when we look at the lyrics of the Philippine national anthem, something that I have enjoyed getting to learn, Lupang Hinirang, Bayang Migilu, we talk about the chosen land. And the chosen land, in my opinion, Marvin, is equally fitting to the Philippines and to Israel. I want to say that it has been an honor for me to get to know the Philippine community with such level of appreciation as I have since I was elected 2 years ago today. And the very first event that I attended at Queen's Park was, in fact, the raising of the Philippine national flag at our parliament at Queen's Park, the Ontario legislature. And through that period of time, I have come to know so many of the Philippine leaders in the community, and to recognize that my own constituency of York Centre here in Toronto has one of the largest Philippine diasporas anywhere in Canada. And I might add, Marvin, we're proud to be the home of Taste of Manila, which is a hallmark, a showcase of event of Philippine culture and heritage right here. And we're going to have it again in August. I've looked to the leaders of the Taste of Manila and the other leaders of other Filipino festivals to guide me, to teach me, and to welcome me to be part of their lives. Just yesterday, as I was walking to synagogue, we met together with those who made Philippine Heritage Month in Ontario a reality. And we gathered together at the monument of Rizal, of President Rizal, right here in York Center. And it was very personal to me. I was together with the Knights of Rizal and using every opportunity to learn about the richness of the culture that we know and we have come to appreciate. But I also have to tell you, Marvin, that there are not too many events in the Jewish calendars that we don't have the Philippine community there with us side by side. In the events following October the 7th, the first calls that came to me were, in fact, from the leaders of the Filipino community here in Toronto. And I've made every effort to go to see them in person, as many as I can every single week. We're home also, Marvin, to have one of the largest concentration of Filipino businesses right here, just steps from where I live in my own riding at Bathurst and Wilson, which I'm proud to call our little Manila. So when I look back at the enormously warm ties between our Filipino community here in Toronto, and I might add here in my own constituency of York Center, I can find of no better example of a community that has come together with the Jewish community to be one. For me, it is such a warm honor that we're blessed to have these two communities celebrating May and June each year, Jewish Heritage Month and Philippine Heritage Month. But again, it is, in my opinion, not so coincidental because of the relationship, the enduring respect, the fact that when people came to Canada, the story of the Filipino immigration to Canada is similar in many ways to the Jewish immigration to Canada. They came, the Jews came here, they worked their way up, they became educated, they became doctors and lawyers and business people. They became there to help build a wonderful Ontario and Canada for everyone. And when we look at the story of those who came from the Philippines to Ontario, to Canada, it's a similar story. And whether you are looking at something that is truly miraculous, both for the Jewish community and to the Filipino community, it goes because of one common belief, that we believe in the values that are so important to us in Ontario, in Canada. We believe in warmth. We believe in friendship. We believe in lending a hand one to another. We believe in making a difference in our communities every day and being part of our communities. So Marvin, for me, as the MPP from York Center, honored also to be the minister responsible for public safety in the province of Ontario, called the Solicitor General, it has been heartwarming to welcome and to be part of the richness of who the Philippine community is right here. And I want to wish them a very, very happy and meaningful Philippine Heritage Month, a very prosperous Philippine Independence Day that we will be celebrating together on June the 12th. This is the 126th anniversary. And really and truly for welcoming me to be part of the community's life. And I want to say to everyone, mabuhay and shalom.
Thank you, Michael. Very kind and warm words. And I have to let you know, several of your constituents are on this call from Filipino community who happen to live in York Center, and I'm sure the word will get out to the entire community. And you're available. You never say no. You must work 25 hours a day. You're not only the minister and the MPP, but you're, as I said before, always willing to lend a hand to any minority community that needs help. And that is appreciated. And I look forward to continuing our relationship. We'll now go to two short video messages, one for Filipino Heritage Month, the other for Jewish Heritage Month. The first will be from Recky Valdez, the MP from Mississauga, Streetsville, the Minister of Small Businesses, and it greets Filipino Heritage Month 2023. The one for 2024 isn't going to happen till this week. So let's hear this video.
Speaker, the month of June marks Filipino Heritage Month. And on June 12th, Filipinos from around the world will celebrate Philippines Independence Day. From coast to coast to coast, there will be flag-raising ceremonies, cultural events, and festivals. Filipino Canadians have made tremendous contributions to this great country. It is an honor to stand here on behalf of nearly 1 million Filipino Canadians to mark this momentous occasion. I want to thank my friend and colleague, the member from Scarborough Centre, for advocating for Motion 155 to designate June as Filipino Heritage Month in Canada. This would not be made possible without her support and all the members in this House. This month, I encourage everyone to learn more about our rich Filipino heritage, culture, and traditions, not to mention food. I want to send a special mention to the Filipino interns who've traveled from across the country to work here on Parliament Hill. I wish all Filipino Canadians a happy Filipino Heritage Month. Maligayang buwan ng pamanang Pilipino. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And thank you, MP Valdez. Unfortunately, we will not be able to give you her 2024 message till she makes it tomorrow. We'll now go to Minister Kamal Kara, the MP for Berlin.
Happy Jewish Heritage Month, Canada.
Minister.
This is a time to celebrate the Jewish people and their culture, faith, and history in Canada, as well as the invaluable contributions that Jewish communities have made and continue to make to advance our country's growth and prosperity. It's a time to acknowledge the ways in which Jewish Canadians continue to enrich and strengthen Canadian society in all sectors, in the arts, academics, medicine, science, entrepreneurship, and philanthropy. But Jewish Heritage Month is also a time to reflect on the alarming increase in anti-Semitism that we're seeing across the country. Our government has always been clear. Anti-Semitism has no place in Canada. The recent rise in hatred must stop. It is not who we are, and it does not reflect our values as an inclusive country. This month, let's unite our efforts to build a safer, more equitable, diverse, and inclusive society for everyone. That is who we are. Once again, I want to wish everyone a very happy Jewish Heritage Month.
Thank you, Minister Kara. I just want to note for those who are unaware that the minister is the Minister of Diversity and Inclusion and for Disabled Persons, and we appreciate her message for Jewish Heritage Month 2024. We'll now go to another person I admire who is also omnipresent. He happens to be the government leader in the Senate, and that is Mark Gold. Mark's father was a distinguished judge. Mark is a distinguished professor, and he's also hardworking, well-respected member of the Senate. He's tried to make the Senate a place where it's really a place of sober second reflection, less partisan, and one in which the best ideas of all Canadians can be weighed and evaluated. He's tried to make legislation better. It isn't an easy job. We have a habit in politics of being somewhat partisan, but I think Mark has a sterling record of being able to work not only with the government, but with the opposition and with independents as well. I give the floor to Mark Gold.
Well, thank you, Marvin, and hi, everybody. Thanks so much for inviting me to be part of this very special event to celebrate the friendship between the Jewish and Philippine communities. Every month of May is an opportunity for us to reflect upon the underlying core values that have characterized the Canadian Jewish experience. Respect for individual rights and individual beliefs, the importance of education, importance of hard work and self-improvement, the obligation to care for our family, for our friends, and for all of us, all of those, I should say, who are less fortunate than us. And these are the same values that are deeply rooted in the Filipino tradition, as we've heard in so eloquently through so many of the speeches and videos tonight. And of course, they're values that are part of the Canadian tradition, because our communities and so many others have contributed to the development of this great country of which we're so privileged to be part of. I won't repeat all the things that you've heard and we've heard before. You know, they say that Jews don't have history, we have memory. And it's the memory of the strong humanitarian tradition and legacy of the Philippine people and governments that is so, that warms one's heart and comforts us in these, frankly, very difficult times. The Philippines has been a safe haven for waves of refugees back to the end of the First World War. And the people of the Philippines and its government have shown true compassion for those who are escaping conflict and fleeing persecution and in need of protection. You know, and I live outside of Montreal now. I was born and raised in Montreal. We have a strong and vibrant Philippine community. All of us have family and friends. In my case, both, because there are Filipino members of my family, and it's really a testament to the shared values between us, that we can learn so much from each other and share so much with each other, both the good times and the tough times. So really, on this very important day, and as we begin the month of Philippine Heritage Month in Canada, I just want to express my appreciation to you, Marvin, and to all who organized this, for allowing me to be a part of this. And may we go from strength to strength. All the best to you all. Thank you, Marvin.
Thank you, Senator Gold. Really appreciate your making yourself available. I know how difficult it is for politicians to be live on a Sunday night after putting in a 6 3/4 day week, to use some of their free time to come on to a call. Your words carry a great deal of meaning. I'm now going to juggle our program for the evening. Our next speaker is supposed to be Elizabeth Prass, followed by Reverend Orland Ricaccio. I do have Councillor Brad Bradford from Toronto, and he has to be somewhere else in a few minutes. So with the consent of Elizabeth and Orland, I'm just going to juggle the program slightly. I'm going to give Brad the floor so he can make his next meeting in a few minutes. Councillor Bradford, would you take the floor, please? Before you do, I just want to thank you for your calls made in the month of March for legislation and action to protect places of worship which were being targeted, calling for their protesters to be a certain space away so they wouldn't intimidate worshipers, be that a synagogue, a church, a mosque, or whatever. And it seems to have worked. It seems to have gotten provincial and federal governments to understand the nature of the problem. Councillor Bradford, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks very much, Marvin. And I swung back here at my men's beer league softball on Sunday night. But we were down anyways, and wanted to be on the call. So I jumped from that, and then I got to put my girls to bed. But it's really nice to be here with all of you to mark the conclusion of Jewish Heritage Month, and of course, open the door on June to celebrate Filipino Heritage Month. And you got lots of folks on the line for a Sunday evening, and as I look at the elected officials and the leaders who have been speaking with community tonight, it's truly an honor for you to call on me, Marvin. So thanks very much. For those of you who I haven't had a chance to connect with yet, my name is Brad Bradford. I'm city councilor here in Toronto. Ran for mayor in the by-election last year, just about a year ago, actually, which is how I came to know many folks in the Filipino community here in Toronto. And the Jewish community across the city as well. Canada, of course, is home to the third largest Jewish diaspora in the world, and Toronto, Montreal, that's a big part of those communities. So it's an honor to get to know everyone. Reflecting on the past 8 months, there are moments in your life when you are struck with absolute moral clarity. And for me, October 7th was one of those days. The horrific and unexpected assault on Israel, the murder of more than 1,200 civilians, many of whom are Jewish, 250 innocent hostages taken by Hamas, was so upsetting, And in the months that have preceded that, the rise of hate and anti-Semitism in Canadian cities, but certainly here in Toronto, has been alarming. It's been disgusting and it's been extremely hurtful. I think it's moments like this, as a non-Jewish person, you really start to see who has that moral clarity, and we all become very aware of who our friends are, and unfortunately the folks that don't have that sort of clarity or courage, because doing the right thing is not always the convenient thing. It's not always the politically expedient thing. It's not always the easy thing. But I can tell you, I sleep better at night, and the friendships that we've made over the past number of months are things that we'll carry with each other forever. It's also important acknowledging and remembering the longstanding relationship between the Philippines and Israel, and between Jews and Filipinos. The Filipino community is frankly also no stranger to hate. Lots of challenges on that front, I think, in a city as diverse as Toronto. But there, people end up getting shut out to opportunities, and the fight to make sure that those opportunities are provided. The Filipino community here in Toronto is one of entrepreneurship. When you go up to Wilson, to Little Manila, you see all the entrepreneurs and the great work, investing their time and their talent and their energy to make our city stronger, to grow their businesses, to give their families and the next generation a better life in a city like Toronto. That's what we want to see more of. And working together, I think, Jewish community, Filipino community, and all communities can be even stronger when we stamp out hate, we provide opportunity for people and make sure that we're all moving forward together. That's why I think it's so important for all of us, and hearing from the senator and others tonight, to stand together against hate, all forms of hatred, with one single voice. Filipino community, non-Jewish people, Jewish people, all of us standing up for each other, for what is right, standing up for freedom, and denouncing the hatred that has become too common. Marvin, you touched on the motion I had at council 2 weeks ago. It was a request of the provincial government to deliver legislation that would provide us with the ability to create bubble zones or safety zones around places of worship, faith-based schools. Unfortunately, regrettably, we lost that one at council in a very close vote, 13-11. Council opted not to ask the province for that legislation. And I know it's complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces, but with the City of Toronto Act, we would be able to do that here and stand something up that particularly responds to Toronto's challenges. Unfortunately, we didn't get that passed, but the message has been sent. I've had promising conversations with the province. In the days since, of course, we have seen a Jewish elementary school shot at. We saw that here in Toronto. You saw that in Montreal as well. And so, our work is not done. And so I will leave it there. Thank you for the opportunity to connect tonight. It is an honor again, and wishing everybody a very happy Jewish Heritage Month. Last month, a wonderful Filipino Heritage Month. I'll join you at the flag raising at City Hall, and I'm sure I'll see many of you at the CJ Pack Action Party on Thursday. Thanks again, Marvin.
Thank you, Brad. And I just want to say it's not lost. Michael Kirstner was on tonight. We can talk to him. We can talk to Doug Downey. The province has a certain margin of maneuver on its own. It doesn't actually require a motion from Toronto Council to
That's
do.
right.
There are other avenues to pursue. Keep up the good work, and thank you for making yourself available this evening.
You bet. Great to be with you. Thank you.
I'll go to Elizabeth Prass, the member of the Quebec National Assembly for Darcy McGee, which shares a lot of the territory of Mount Royal riding that is represented by Anthony Housefather, who we heard from before. Elizabeth represents an awfully big Jewish community. She also represents an awfully big Filipino community. And so I often run across her. I did when I was a counselor, and I do now in my current work, because she has to be at events where she addresses the needs of the Jewish community, the needs of the Filipino community, and often they're the same needs. And she's advocating in the same sort of ways for both communities at the provincial level. Increasingly well-known in the riding as its M&A, I give the floor to Elizabeth Prass.
Thank you so much, Marvin. So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us all this evening to unite against hate and to mark both Jewish and Filipino Heritage Months in Canada. It is fortunate that two are celebrated back-to-back in May and June, respectively, as both our communities in Canada have flourished side by side, but have also supported each other throughout the years. Both our heritages have many things in common, such as the values of democracy, education, family, and giving back to our communities, because together we can achieve so much. Last month, and you'll see it soon on social media, I was proud to present a declaration in the Quebec National Assembly to mark Filipino Heritage Month. And as the M&A for Darcy McGee, I feel very fortunate to have a riding whose predominant communities that I get to represent are those of the English-speaking, Jewish, and Filipino communities. This gives me the opportunity to not only share in our cultures, but to promote them as an important part of inclusion in Quebec, Montreal, and in Canada. After the events of October 7th, as the Jewish community mourned, the Filipino community did not hesitate to stand with us and support us. And so that common bond that binds us, our communities celebrate our heritage and cultural months during May and June, and it gives us the common opportunity to share in the wonderful histories and customs that bring us together. The support from the Filipino community towards the Jewish community has been so important and appreciated, as we stand up for the same values for which we are proud. This reflects our historical friendship as nations and as people who've understood the plight of being immigrants in our own lands, but we've always stood for each other and for the rights that we both represent. We are peaceful people, and we have chosen Canada, both for our cultural heritage months, as a country of immigrants where each group was able to establish themselves while sharing in our common roots. We share hope for a better life, and our diplomatic relationship has served us well. We achieve more when we stand together, and that's what we have done through the years, through the decades, and we hope to continue in the future. Montreal, Quebec, and Canada is a wonderful place in terms of what we've been able to establish in terms of the benefits of cultural communities and cultural integrism. And so as we celebrate both these months of Jewish and Filipino heritage, and after the events that have occurred in the last few years, and our bond has just been strengthened, it reminds us that as cultures that come from elsewhere to this country, as long as we have each other's backs, we can prove to the rest of the world that we are just as willing and able to establish our place in Canada and to share our culture and our heritage, whether it be through food, whether it be through music, whether it be through our history. And we have just as much place here and responsibility to teaching others about who we are that we have towards our own people. And so I thank the Filipino and Jewish communities for sharing values and standing up for each other through good times and through bad times, and celebrating all that we have to offer to the Canadian culture. And so I thank you this evening for joining us.
Thank you, Liz. Much appreciate your words. We're going to be making the YouTube available of this, and you can share it with your constituents. It'll be sent to all the speakers from this evening. Thank you for making yourself available. The next 4 minutes belong to Reverend Orlin Ricacho. Orlin is the longtime organizer of the Filipino delegation to the Israel Day rally. Orlin is a friend of the State of Israel, convinced Zionist, and in the last couple of years has worked with others to expand the Filipino delegation to a joint Filipino-Jewish delegation. This year's delegation filled a bus, which went from the Van Horn Shopping Center down to the rally and met others who are already waiting there. It was well greeted by the participants and got a lot of media attention, and everybody wanted to have their pictures taken, particularly with signs calling out the historic friendship of Filipinos and Jews. Orland, the next 4 minutes are yours.
Thank you, Marvin. Shalom, mabuhay, good evening, Erev Tov, everyone. I'm humbled and honored to be asked by Director Marvin Rotra to participate in this 2024 Joint Israel-Philippine Heritage Month celebration. To say a few words of my passion and love for Israel and God's chosen people, which is rooted in the Torah and the Bible, particularly the songs and prayers of King David, who said, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They shall prosper that love thee." Psalms 122, verse 6. On behalf of the Filipino community, I wish to personally thank Director Rotra for initiating in 2018 the historic sponsorship of a resolution proclaiming the month of June, Philippine Heritage Month in Montreal, and subsequently the following year, Parliament unanimously adopted a similar resolution nationwide. That was very historical. It is noteworthy to emphasize the long overdue recognition, the important contributions of both Jews and Filipinos to Canadian society. Also, in the same token, my granddaughter Chloe in California is a recipient of the 2024 Heritage Award at a semi-formal ceremony at this coming Wednesday, the 5th. In the same spirit of King David, I pray every day for the peace of Israel, and I have been exceedingly blessed by God, because when you bless what God wants to bless, God is ever faithful to extend more blessings and favors. For this reason, I have been abundantly blessed by God to have crossroads with Jews and non-Jews alike, and particularly blessed tonight by everyone in this most memorable Zoom call. Allow me to reaffirm our perpetual friendship, love, and support to the annual Montreal Israel Day rally with our sweet theme, the tie that binds together Filipinos and Jews, friends forever. As you can see on my background, I'm already preparing for next year's celebration, 77th Israel Anniversary 2025. And thank you, Marvin and Bus Captain Bert Abiera, for filling up the bus last month to capacity, and let's try to fill up 2 buses next year. Salamat, thank you, Toderava, good evening, Erev Tov, Shalom, Mabuhay.
Mabuhay indeed. Thank you ever so much, Orland. I want to also give credit to others who worked with you, with myself, and with others to put that delegation together. And that includes Bert Abiera, who you named, a respected community leader who is everywhere and is absolutely selfless in giving his time, not only a former president of the community, but a member of many, many boards. Bert, thank you for the work you did this year and other years to ensure that the story of the rescue of the Philippines is known and that the Filipino delegation is at the Israel Day rally. Also want to call out Jerry Danzel, the president of the United Filipino Seniors, who worked to get his members to go to the Israel Day rally. Note Ray Balense, who urged the Knights of Rizal to be present, and Al Abdon, of course, with the Filipino Heritage Month Society, who also worked to do that. Thank you very much. We'll now go to a very moving video. Petronila Garcia is the former Philippines ambassador to Israel. Her children are married to Israeli. Her grandchildren are citizens of the Philippines, the United States, and Israel. And they live actually in Israel. And her grandchildren speaks Hebrew. And so does she, by the way. Petronila was supposed to be on live. She's in Arizona right now. Unfortunately, she had internet problems. And a few minutes before this call, we worked something out that we were able to get a video on a cell phone and via Facebook Messenger, and we had some difficulty, but we've managed to get it downloaded and it should work. And I'm going to call on my tech support to show that video right now.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry I can't join you as I'm driving from Arizona to Las Vegas. Thank you, Marvin, for having me. This is important because we celebrate the end of the Jewish Heritage Month and the Filipino Heritage Month in Canada, at a time when the world is in great turmoil, especially anti-Semitism. I was in Israel visiting my grandson and my son and his family when when October 7 happened. I remember the siren sounded, and then my son called me, and we went to and I went to the safe room. But not everybody was safe, and you know what happened in Kibbutz Be'eri. One would have thought that after such a terrible, such a genocide that happened in October 7, one would have thought that the world would have responded with sympathy to Israel. And it was shocking. It was completely unrecognizable what happened to the world. Instead of sympathizing with the victims, suddenly the Israelis are now the Nazis and the oppressors. But anyway, we all know the story there. I should like to say that when I was in Israel, I never experienced apartheid that they are talking about. In fact, Israel is truly democratic. My own son studied in the university there, Reichman University, where he graduated with a degree in counterterrorism. And he now he has a very good job in Israel in a Porsche. The reason I mention this is because if indeed there was apartheid in Israel, my son is an Asian. It would have been very difficult for him to get a job. But no, there is genuine meritocracy, genuine democracy in that country. And I really appreciate it. My grandson, Daniel, he goes to school in an Israeli school. And he believes that he is a good boy. He's 7 years old. Why would anybody want to kill him? Simply because he's a Jew. It's time to really listen to our inner conscience and to decide and to discern what's right and what's wrong. For this reason, I'm so glad that, Marvin, you're holding these Zoom meetings, because I think it's time for people to listen to real people and not to these bots that are proliferating our media, our social media. I hope that you will continue to do this and that we can somehow fight this hate with truth. Thank you very much. Shalom.
I've known Petronilla for quite a few years. I accompanied her to the Philippines when she was ambassador. We went with a delegation of over 200 Canadians, mostly Filipino Canadians, but not entirely. And she was a woman of great moral courage and fortitude. She was a leader when she was ambassador. She's a leader now that she's retired from the Foreign Service. She has so much to offer. And she identifies with her different dimensions, including a side that's Jewish and includes a family that is Israeli and Jewish, even though they're Asian. Her grandchildren are partially Asian. And as such, she epitomizes again this relationship that exists between the Philippines and Israel, between the Filipinos and the Jewish people. That was a very moving video. I'll now go to two city councilors in a row. One's Jewish, the other is Filipino. The first happens to be my successor in the Snowden district, the only Jewish councilor right now on the Montreal Council. His name is Sonny Moroz, and he got Montreal Council to adopt a motion to recognize every May as Jewish Heritage Month. He's continued my work to get Quebec and Montreal to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. His voice is important. I've asked Sonny to be relatively brief and to give more time to some of the other speakers. Sonny is, again, omnipresent. It's hard to go a day not to see him in some media in Montreal. And he has a brilliant future ahead of him as a city councilor. Sonny, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marvin, and thank you everyone for gathering tonight. So I have a brief few minutes as the city councilor for Snowden. I have the pleasure of serving alongside my colleague who will speak after me, Stephanie. So we just exited Jewish Heritage Month, and as Marvin stole my thunder, that was a big moment for me to do that as one of the first things that I did as a city councilor. It's been a lonely 7 months. It's not necessarily been the easiest of moments, those phone calls when people need action and need to know who to go to, and to take those calls as a young person. It's not something that Marvin can prepare you for. I don't think anybody can prepare for that for yourself when you're actually responsible as an elected official. So as a young person, I was grateful to be able to lean on Filipino community leaders when they reached out and asked what they could do, that they, on that first Friday, right after October 7th, they were throughout Cotonej during the times when the Jewish religious community in Snowdon was walking home. They wouldn't have cell phones, and there was no incident. And the Filipino community wasn't there to react necessarily, but to be a call, a more quick response to be able to bring in the authorities. And I thank the Knights of Rizal chapter and everything they do and everything they've done throughout the pandemic in supporting the community, not just the Filipino community, but everyone in Cotonej, which is a growing 100,000 people. And as the representatives for this area had spoken before, it's difficult. And to be able to rely on not just the Filipino, not just the Jewish community, it's a testament to the welcoming community that we have in Cotonej and its bright future that it has. So as we enter Filipino Heritage Month in June, I look forward to assisting all the events that we have. I think notably about the UPSQ event that's actually going to be in July, which will be an event that brings many different communities together in the park in order to learn about different activities and different health programs that can help them throughout the day. And as always, the leadership of the Filipino Heritage Society in Montreal, their fantastic group of volunteers around their president and chair, Al Abdon. Please check out their page. They have a great way of highlighting every single event and really allowing people to explore the different parts of the lesser known parts of the Filipino community, and not just the big events like the flag raising, the FAMAS Ball, as well as the CCFAQ Independence Day, which I look forward to. So I hope I didn't run too long. I'll pass it back over to Marvin, and I look forward to a lot of more events, discussions, and opportunities under this new organization. And I thank you, Marvin, for allowing me to speak. I look forward to more from the United Against Hate Canada.
Thank you, Councillor Moroz. We accept your offer of help. We're going to need a lot of help. We're basically a volunteer organization, and we promote cross-cultural dialogue. I think we've touched a nerve. We're the only ones, as far as I know, in Canada that do what we do, and do it in a way that really brings in groups that feel marginalized, have never been approached by others to work together. The next councillor to speak is Stephanie Valenzuela, the councillor for Darlington District in Montreal. Next district over to Snowdon, represented by Sonny Moroz. Stephanie is the first Filipino person ever elected to any office in the province of Quebec. Now, she is a strong supporter of the Jewish community. She has a very large Jewish population in her district, but she has an equally large Filipino population in her district, and she is a source of great pride to the Filipino community. She is front and present in the Cotonej Notre-Dame-de-Grâce Borough and at City Hall. I'm always glad when I turn on the news and see Stephanie speaking, because she speaks a lot of good sense. Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Marvin. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir à toutes et à tous. As we gather for this special event, we have the very unique opportunity to welcome Filipino Heritage Month in June and close Jewish Heritage Month in May, which, as mentioned earlier, was proposed by my dear colleague Sonny Moroz at City Council last year. Today, we honor the rich histories, vibrant cultures, and enduring contributions of both communities to creating this wonderful city that we live in, which is Montreal, but our entire country of Canada. This time of celebration and reflection highlights our shared values and the importance of unity within the diversity that we represent. The historic relationship between the Filipino and Jewish communities serve as a powerful example of solidarity and mutual respect. It was shared earlier, but again, I will say that during World War II, the Philippines offered refuge to Jewish families fleeing the horrors of Holocaust, embodying the spirit of compassion and humanity that both cultures hold dear to our hearts and to our communities. This act of kindness and courage is a reminder that even in the darkest times, there are always beacons of hope and humanity. Filipino Heritage Month is a special time, specifically for me personally. As mentioned, I'm the first Filipino elected to office in Quebec, and it has been an honor for me to represent my community for the last 2.5 years as a city councillor. This milestone is not just a personal achievement, but it's a testament to the strength and resilience of the Filipino community, specifically here in Montreal, but across the country from coast to coast. Filipino Heritage Month is a recognition of our contributions and the vibrant cultural tapestry we bring to our country, and especially, again, here in Montreal. Today, we are facing troubling tides of acts of violence and intimidation against the Jewish community. Just a few days ago, unfortunately, there were acts against a school in my district. And in Cotonej particularly, we've seen a number of troubling attacks on our Jewish community, which is not only unacceptable, intolerable, but it's disgusting. And it strikes the very core of our shared values of tolerance, respect, dignity for all, and what it truly means to be Canadian. I feel like at some point right now where we are in our society, we've forgotten what it means to be Canadian. We've forgotten what it means to respect our neighbors and to understand that despite our differences, we are all human beings and we all want safety for the people that we love and care for. So at this very moment, we have to reaffirm our commitment to fostering an environment where all individuals feel safe and valued, regardless of your religion, the color of your skin, the last name you hold. We have to put our foot down. We have to denounce when things are wrong. And I strongly encourage everyone to do so. And that's why I really want to take this opportunity to thank United Against Hate Canada, Marvin Rochan, and especially Tito Al Abdon for your great initiative for bringing both communities together tonight. And thank you so much. And I hope to see everyone for the different events that we'll be celebrating this month for Filipino Heritage Month. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Valenzuela. I can say that the Jewish and the Filipino community are really counting on Councillor Moroz and yourself to be their voice in City Council, to raise their issues and to bring the communities together and to ensure that everybody is safe in their neighborhoods and everybody has the opportunity to go about their lives and do the best they can for their families. We're living in very difficult times, and the fact that the two of you are there is extremely encouraging to the population in Montreal. And I thank you for that. We're going to go in a moment to another very short video about how the Philippines saved 1,200 Jews. I am almost certain that most of the people in our audience tonight do not know that there's a major statue to President Kazan in Israel. So let's find out about that.
I'm standing at one of the most special monuments in Israel that tells the story of how the Philippines saved over 1,000 Jews. During the Holocaust, Jews fled Europe, trying to save their lives from Nazi extermination and find a country that would accept them. In 1939, the Philippines opened its doors for Jewish families who were escaping Europe. Philippine President Manuel Quezon ordered to issue 10,000 visas for Jewish refugees, hoping that he will be able to rescue a large number of Jews. In the end, some 1,200 Jewish men, women, and children were saved.
The Filipino people are a very warm people. They're a very friendly people.
Most of the Jewish refugees in Manila eventually moved to Israel after the war. This monument was built in order to honor the Philippine nation and its president. The Jewish people will never forget how the Philippines was willing to open its doors and save us during the Holocaust. We are forever thankful.
This monument is located in Rishon LeZion. a suburb of Tel Aviv. And if you're ever in Israel, please do go visit it. At the beginning of this call, I also mentioned there's another marker to President Kazan in Israel, and that's located in Haifa. It's a bit smaller than this particular monument, which is really quite impressive. So if you ever do go to Israel, this is an aspect of history that you should definitely check out. We're now going to go to Ray Balenci, the regional commander of the Knights of Rizal. As mentioned by at least two speakers, the Knights have stood with the Jewish community at this difficult time since October the 7th. And the Knights also mobilized to get people to go to Israel Day rallies in different cities across Canada. Ray is the commander for Eastern Canada from Ontario eastward. Ray, the floor is yours. You're muted, Ray. You'll have to unmute yourself. You're still muted.
It's okay?
Yes, now
Thank you, Sir Marvin, for inviting me in this very memorable Zoom meeting. Actually, this is my first time to attend the meeting, and also to my Filipinos who are with us. Good evening to everybody. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. I am Sir Ray Balenci. I am now the newly appointed regional chapter commander of Eastern Canada. Brigadier Sir Dario Bucco, the past area commander. Actually, I am also reading the history of the Holocaust moment, and I noticed that without that Holocaust, I don't think that the Filipinos and the Jews become so close together. But one thing I am still trying to understand, how did the Jewish people came to the Philippines during that Holocaust incident? Did they use a plane or did they use a ship? I asked Sir Marvin one time this question. Actually, we are also supporting the Israelites people ever since. And even when I was in the high school, I have been reading the attrition war, and I discovered a lot of miracles that took place during that attrition war. And from now until now, I'm still supporting the Israelite people. Thank you, Sir Marvin.
Thank you, Ray. We look forward to the Knights of Rizal continuing their warm relations with the Jews right across Canada, inviting us to your events, and certainly we'll reciprocate and invite you to our events. We'll now go to Ramon Vicente, the president of Filipino Family Service. It's another service organization that provides not only food security, but gamut of services to the Filipino population, not only to seniors, but to youth and to anybody who needs it. Ramon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marvin. Good day and Boker Tov to you, Marvin. I am honored to share this evening with so many dignitaries representing the Filipino and Jewish communities as we jointly celebrate our respective heritage months. The Filipino Family Service of Montreal is a charitable organization that provides support to and counseling and mentoring Filipino families, youth, and seniors. We cherish our relationship with Jewish organizations and note that the bonds of friendship between the Filipino and Jewish peoples is deep and strong. Allow me to thank Mr. Al Abdon of the Filipino Heritage Month Society and Mr. Marvin Rotran of United Against Hate Canada for being the moving forces behind tonight's special evening. Good work, all. Kol hakavod, Marvin. We have heard earlier this evening as to how President Manuel Quezon worked to save Jewish refugees fleeing the Holocaust. We have also heard how under President Manuel Rojas, how the Philippines aided in the rebirth of Israel. We have learned of the excellent and growing ties between the Republic of the Philippines and the State of Israel. Filipinos and Jews share a history, and the future offers great possibilities for even closer friendship and collaboration. At this time of growing global anti-Semitism, including here in Canada, it is important for us as Filipinos to publicly declare our support for Israel and the Jewish people. We have heard of so many attacks on several synagogues in different places in Canada. We, the Filipino Family Service, strongly deplore this kind of action targeting the holy synagogue house of worship of our Jewish friends. Our message this evening to our Jewish friends is that you're not alone. We stand with you, and on behalf of the Filipino Family Service, our love and respect is with you at all times. Permit me as well, on behalf of our organization, to salute those in our community who will host events through June to highlight Filipino Heritage Month. Next Friday, June 7th at 6:30, there is a special Mass celebrating the Filipino Heritage Month at St. Joseph Oratory of Mount Royal. We Filipinos are now nearly a million strong in Canada, and we are proud of both our heritage of being Canadian. We will host events to mark our Independence Day and the birth of anniversary of our national hero, Jose Rizal. We will invite Canadians to learn about and partake in our Heritage Month. Happy Jewish Heritage Month. Happy Filipino Heritage Month. Mabuhay. Shalom. Salamat po. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ramon, for your words. Your support for the Jewish community, of course, is very much appreciated, particularly what we've lived over the last number of months in Canada. Your pride in your Filipino heritage shines through very, very strongly, and we're glad to be part of helping you celebrate those events. We will now hear from Andrea Spindell from the Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation. Andrea, you have about 4 minutes. You'll be followed by Alvin Tedjo, City Councillor from Mississauga, and then we'll have a video from Mayor Mitch Brownstein of Côte St. Luc. Andrea, welcome to our call, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Marvin. Good evening, everyone, and congratulations, Mazel Tov, and Bina Bati Kita to our Filipino friends. I hope I said that correctly. It's a special pleasure to celebrate Filipino Heritage Month with you, coming immediately after Jewish Heritage Month. Some of my remarks may be redundant given what you've already heard, but perhaps reinforcing some of the same messages. As Executive Director of the Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation, I've personally experienced the close ties between Jews and Filipinos through a dear friend, Pastor Tek Yu, spiritual leader of the Friends of Jesus Christ Church. This church annually hosts an amazing musical and dance program called Israel Rejoicing. I also live on a street in Toronto, at the corner of which there's a very large Filipino Catholic church. When I approached the priest to ask if his community would pray for Israel after October 7th, he told me that they always pray for Israel. I want to therefore add my prayers for the well-being, security, and prosperity of the people of the Philippines, who have maintained a special bond with the Jewish people since 1947, being the only Asian country that supported the UN resolution to partition mandatory Palestine and reconstitute the Jewish state in its ancient homeland. CAF is a national charitable organization that for over 20 years has been raising the alarm about growing anti-Semitism in Canada, standing up for freedom of religion and freedom of speech, combating Jew hatred and other forms of hatred, building meaningful alliances with Christians and other ethno-religious communities. We recognize the value and the importance of working in common cause, defending Canada and defending Israel. Our work at CAF includes research, education, advocacy, and empowering Jews and our allies to stand up for Israel and to express our shared values and to speak against the hatred. In preparing for today, I learned about the Open Doors Monument, which Marvin just told you about, that was erected in Holocaust Memorial Park in Rishon LeZion to honor the role of the Philippine Commonwealth government that in 1937 was already accepting Jewish refugees. And then President Manuel Quezon was prepared to settle, I had read up to 100,000 Jews, but even 10,000 is pretty remarkable. This plan was interrupted by the Japanese invasion of the Philippines in 1941. Let it never, ever be forgotten that such an offer was made and that Quezon was one of the few heads of state to openly condemn the Nazi persecution of Jews prior to the outbreak of World War II. We ask for that same outspoken condemnation today of the terrorist entities that are hell-bent on destroying Israel. As CAF, I am calling on everyone here, and particularly our Filipino friends, as we, the Jewish community, must acknowledge and thank our allies. We need you, we love you, and thank you for standing with us. Continue loudly to speak up for Jewish rights and justice for Israel. On behalf of CAF, I'm pleased to acknowledge the positive relations between our two peoples and encourage all of us to continue to fight bigotry and anti-Semitism, which today is anti-Zionism. May we continue to flourish and go from strength to strength. Thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for your good work. Actually, I learn a lot from you, and you have incredibly good materials online. They're easily accessible, that are really educational. Even your letters sent to politicians can be seen online, and they really are powerful, and I appreciate that. We're now going to go to Councillor Alvin Tedjo. Alvin is a candidate for mayor in Mississauga. Mississauga is the 7th largest city in Canada, and there's a by-election on June 10th. Now, United Against Hate Canada is not a Jewish organization. We're an organization that promotes cross-cultural dialogue and people supporting others who are being targeted. Our board includes Asians, it includes people from the Black community, Muslims, Jews, Christians, and others. But we happen to believe right now the #1 issue in hate in Canada is anti-Semitism and the upsurge that we've seen. And we've done a lot of work around this. We wrote to all the candidates in Mississauga to ask them what they would do to combat anti-Semitism. And only one of them responded, and that was Alvin Tedjo. And we spoke to Alvin's campaign 3 times, and he was willing to come onto this call as well as introduce himself. Alvin, I believe you are of Indonesian Philippine heritage and a Canadian as well. So I welcome you on this call. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your situation.
Thank you so much, Marvin. And my apologies. I was online at home, but I've had to run to another event. So unfortunately, I'm in the car, but really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to address United Against Hate, because we should all be united against hate. And as you said, I'm not Filipino, but after I was elected, I was announced in the newspapers and on the radio as the first Filipino elected in Mississauga. But my parents are from Indonesia. I often get mistaken for Filipino, but that's okay. I'm Filipino at heart. I think it's really an important time in our city right now where we need real leadership. I've stated in the council chamber after October 7th that our city does not accept any kind of anti-Semitism in our community, and it is completely inappropriate. It's our duty, I believe, as councillors and a council to keep our community safe, and for everyone to understand that they have a right to feel safe in their own neighborhoods, and that we should not accept any type of hate speech that we hear and see on our streets and in our communities. And this is a conversation I've had with many people and have stated in council as well. And so I think from there, it's quite important that, as you're saying, we're celebrating our diversity, but finding ways for us to work together. And as I've been on council working with the anti-hate discrimination committee, talking about how we can bridge the gaps better, I've been proud of the work that we've been able to do to bring folks onto our board, including members of the Jewish community who weren't previously represented, to make sure that that perspective is included. And I have, obviously, taken to a lot of Jewish leadership on my campaign team. My campaign manager, Emma Wakeland, is Jewish, and Noah Farber, who's been helping me a lot as well, and Senator Grafstein, who's been a good advisor. I went to Temple the other day for the first time so that I myself could expand my understanding of the Jewish faith. I'm Catholic, but it was eye-opening for me to come to Temple and see that, after also going to my first couple of Seders when we had Passover a few weeks ago. So that's all I wanted to say. Really, I support the message. I support the cause. If there's anything that I can do for you as a city councilor or as mayor, if I'm lucky to get elected, I'm always happy to participate in that and be a leader and champion of that, because I believe that those of us who sometimes aren't directly affected are the ones who are the most responsible for making sure that we call out hatred and discrimination when it is there, because that is our role, and I see that as my role. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alvin. It's a pleasure to meet you, get to know you. Good luck in the by-election on June the 10th. Regardless of whether you become the mayor of Mississauga or remain a city councilor, we'll stay definitely in contact with you. There's a lot of work to be done. I happen to know Senator Grafstein quite well. I'm glad to see that he's in your corner. He carries a lot of weight with a lot of people. The world is small. Before we heard from Ambassador Garcia, and she happened to mention her grandchildren are Israeli. Well, you may not know this, Alvin. My grandchildren are Indonesian, and they have a joint Canadian and Indonesian citizenship.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Small world.
We will speak more about that at another time. I thank you for taking the time during campaign when you should be out door knocking and talking to voters. Once again, good luck, and please stay in contact with us. We'll now go to a video provided by Mayor Mitch Brownstein of the city of Côte St. Luc. Côte St. Luc is one of the largest actually Jewish communities in Canada. It is a Jewish majority community. The population of Côte St. Luc, I believe, is about 32,000. About 17,000, 18,000 of its residents are Jewish. So it's a significant Jewish presence in Canada. And Mitch has been there not only for the Jewish community, he's also been there for the growing Filipino population in his community. And let's hear his message.
I am honored to be able to say a few words at this celebration of Filipino and Jewish Heritage Months. As I'm sure many have already said, there is a long and deep connection between Filipino Canadians and Jewish Canadians, and indeed between Jews and Filipinos. The open door policy of the Philippines saved almost 1,300 Jews fleeing the Nazis. And a few years later, the Philippines voted in favor of the UN partition plan that recognized a Jewish state. Jewish Canadians and Filipino Canadians have shared values, strong families, a deep love and appreciation for Canada, and how liberal democracy is precious and must be protected. It has been a difficult few months for Jewish Canadians. The kindness of Filipino Canadians during this time will never be forgotten.
Thank you, Mitch. I had the pleasure of working with Mitch very closely when I was a councilor, and I continue to work closely with him on human rights issues. Our last speaker would have been Ben Carr, the Member of Parliament for Winnipeg South Centre. Ben was supposed to be live, and then when his schedule changed, he was supposed to fly back to Ottawa. He was supposed to provide a video. There's been some trouble obtaining it. So he's here with us in spirit today. He is a friend, and he's always willing to help, and we'll have him on a future call. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of our call. I would like very much to thank Al Abdon. What a pleasure to work with you, Al, to bring this event forward. We will definitely share the YouTube video. We expect that we've already had a substantial audience on the live stream, but for anyone who receives this on YouTube, we've asked you to share it with your list. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Filipino Heritage Month, and thank you to all those who helped with Jewish Heritage Month this year. Al and I will relax a bit because we got a day or two off, but there are events that I encourage everyone to go to for Filipino Heritage Month. Go to the Independence Day event in your city. Go to the birth anniversary event for Dr. Jose Rizal, the national hero of the Philippines. Go to the galas that are being held, and let's build dialogue between the Jewish and Filipino communities as we have begun to do. Let us invite other communities as well. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. This call is now concluded.